Oddities, late night movies with Rob, Ben, and Zach. This is a podcast about cinematic oddities, where we discuss any media that is too bizarre, abnormal, or off-kilter for contemporary audiences. Occasionally these projects gel, most times they crash hard into the realm of obscurity. Join us as we delve into the cult classic swamp. I'm Ben.
And I am told the same. So I've been told that you're Ben before. So,
oh, nice.
Just so you know. Just so you know. I figured, I'd let you know that you tell me that every time we talk. And I'm like, I've heard. I've been told the same.
You're like, I don't need to hear this anymore. I don't know why you're telling me. So should we start with like the terrible news that there was a bad batch of spinach?
Bad spinach, bad lettuce, bad airbags.
Yeah, they had to do
peanut butter, right? That happens to peanut butter?
Yep.
Definitely.
Yep.
I feel like I've heard that. What else?
What's it called when all this stuff is bad and you have to like throw it out or give it back to the company and they have to
Ben, I don't know exactly what it is, but I am trying to recall what it is because I feel like I know the word, but I just can't quite get it.
I wish you the best of luck. I don't know that I've ever known it, but if you do manage to recall it, I would definitely be happy to hear it later.
Is it total?
Total. That's it. That might be
total.
It.
Yes. A peanut butter
right.
total.
Yeah.
An airbag total.
I know I've heard that before.
Okay, you think we've lost everybody?
I was planning on not having an audience for this episode anyway, so. Thanks for entertaining that terrible joke.
Is that because were you planning on not having an audience for this episode because of something that you were, trying to do to keep the audience away, or because of the movie we're discussing?
Oh boy, I'm not going to be that negative on the movie out the gate.
Oh my God, that's right. We are covering. This is the series of Ben's favorite directors.
That's right.
And so we have Ben's third in his favorite director's choice. So yes, of course, Ben is going to very much, bow to the feet of this movie.
That's right. This movie was definitely directed by somebody that I am familiar with and or aware of.
One of your favorites, one of your fan clubs, right?
Almost certainly.
Is this one a full-fledged fan club, or is it just a newsletter? Like, do you do full-on fan club for all of these directors? Because that's 3 different fan clubs now. You're running each of them same full-time?
Yeah, why wouldn't I?
Where do you find the time, Ben? Where do you find the time?
Well, I every once in a while I just get it injected into my mind that I actually did those things, and I don't do them. So I just feel like I did.
So you're lying to yourself and everybody else.
I guess. I guess it depends on what you mean by lying, because my brain believes it. So
I don't know. I think you're lying to yourself. Okay, so we are here to talk Total Recall in Ben's favorite director's series. No, it is the remake series. Way back when, we have covered the original Total Recall, the 1990 version, a Paul Verhoeven movie, a very good movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger as well, in one of our earliest episodes on the podcast. And that's a great movie, the original Total Recall. I'm certainly going to have some comparisons, because that was before Ben was involved. We covered that one, between the original and this remake. But Ben, I got to ask you, we got to start just to lay the groundwork. Have you seen the Arnold Schwarzenegger Total Recall?
I have not seen all of it.
Oh, okay. So you've seen some of it.
I've definitely seen up to the point...
The parts that weren't recalled, right?
Up to the point where Laurie is trying to bang Arnold Schwarzenegger to be a distraction.
Okay.
Which is pretty early in the movie, if I remember right. But I had to leave the location that it was airing because of a minor dispute with somebody about a dog.
This sounds
it gave me a funny look, and I just couldn't have that.
This sounds like a major dispute.
Well, I was trying not to put people on blast or whatever, but yeah, it was pretty bad.
This sounds like the police got involved.
Definitely.
This sounds like you went to trial for war crimes.
I wasn't going to say that, but yeah.
Okay, so with your answer to your experience with the original Total Recall, only seeing part of it, it definitely makes me want to pose the question, have you seen all of Total Recall 2012, the movie we're discussing today? Did you watch all of that?
Yeah, yes, I did.
Okay, that's good. So I definitely, we're going to have to talk about, so I'll come at this with some comparison to the original, which I am coming from the stance that I did very much like with Ghost in the Shell, where I love the original. And I do have some bias there. So I'll admit that right now, Ben, and that's going to come up. But before we get into that, I did want to ask you, did you know or realize or, actively choose one to watch, that there are two versions of this movie? There's a theatrical and an unrated?
I watched the unrated one.
Okay.
But I did not know that when I selected it.
Okay.
Let me put it this way. I didn't know it until after I had already paid to rent it. And then I became aware of it like pretty much at that moment, and it was like, okay, well, I'm watching the unrated one.
Sure.
So, I mean, I guess I actively chose to proceed with watching the unrated one, and I could have just abandoned ship at that point and just swallowed that $3 or $8. I guess we say $8 for losses, right?
Sure.
Not swallow. I don't know. You swallow things when you eat?
Drank that $3 in pennies,
That's right. That's the way it should be said. Yeah, so I watched the unrated one.
Okay, so that's the one that I watched as well, and this was and I'm pretty sure I've said this on our discussion of the original. I had never seen this before, even though that episode was over. Our episode on that was over 4 years ago now. I never watched it in the interim until we decided to do it for this series. So. Like I said, I watched the unrated as well. I figured why not. It's listed as the unrated, I think, on Amazon and a lot of places, but some other sources write it as the unrated director's cut. I figured watching the longer one would be better, just because, some more content. What I found out only after the fact, when I was doing my research into the two different versions of this movie, I was expecting, I think the time difference is maybe like 10 minutes or something like that. I was expecting something like, they might have added some more to the action, some more gore. That's usually what happens in the unrated, versions of movies. Apparently, the plot structure is wildly different.
Oh.
You know how kind of one of the driving things in the unrated version, so the version I guess we're going to be then fully discussing today, is that Colin Farrell as Hauser has had plastic surgery done on him, so he does not look the same anymore?
Yes.
That is not in the theatrical cut of the movie.
Really?
Yes. Apparently that is completely added just for this director's cut. Ethan Hawke is the guy who plays the original Hauser that we see in the floating head above a piano scene in this movie, which is very strange. That's just not in the theatrical, apparently, from what I've been reading.
Okay, so it's just Colin Farrell the whole time.
Yes, with so his memories are gone. He doesn't have nothing physical was done to him. But in the unrated version, the whole plan of Cohagen was apparently we're gonna instill you and give you new memories and change what you look like and all this shit, and that's a plan and a half right there. You're just creating a new person.
I don't know if I can agree with a plan and a half. Don't get me wrong, it's extra.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's a plan. and we'll discuss that more later.
Would you say it's a simple plan?
No, that's a different movie entirely.
Okay. I got it. Oh, I got it now. Okay, this movie is not a simple plan. Okay. So some other things that I found in my research. So Jessica Biel's character is the daughter of Matthias, the resistance leader. Not in the theatrical. That is just left out.
Oh.
That fact. These characters are still there from what I've read. It's just they don't include anything regarding their relationship.
Okay, so she's just somebody involved in the resistance.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Yep. So it's interesting. I don't think, because even at still, so I think.
But hold on, how could they have a woman be super relevant without her being related to a man that is more relevant?
That's why you got to watch the unrated director's cut. It's gonna have the real meaningful movie things in it. Women have to be connected to a man by any means at all times.
That's okay.
Physical, familial, chains like in Return of the Jedi. Yeah.
Congenital.
So I am not really interested in going back and watching the theatrical. I think that'll become clear as I discuss my feelings on this movie, because it's also still like around 2 hours. The unrated's 2:10. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. But I'm glad we watched the same version, so we won't have to harp on too much of the differences and explaining facets of the stories to each other. But yeah, so as Ben said, this movie is 2 3/4 plans. It's even more than a plan and a half. What'd you think, Ben? So, did you enjoy Total Recall 2012 from one of your favorite directors?
Okay, so I enjoyed the action sequences. I thought some of them were fun. I had some real issues with the plot, kind of in general, and I don't know that that's fixed in the original.
I think this plot is flawless. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think there could be any misconstruing what's going on in this movie.
So, like, one of the issues I have is that, like, the big end reveal, and I think that this is the same for the original, but as I said, I haven't watched it. I did read a little bit about it. Is there's this moment where, like, oh my God, was it all a dream?
Yeah.
Like, I think that, so I guess just from my like creative writing days, everything is a dream is a really lazy way to end a story. I'm already watching something that didn't happen. Why are you telling me that even in the reality I'm watching it didn't happen?
I hear you. I understand.
So it's like, why do you want to remove me that much further from the idea of this story that could be cool, depending on whether it's actually a good story?
Yeah.
So I guess I have a little bit of an issue just with the whole story kind of hinging on that question at the end, and not that it's relevant to like the plot of the action in the movie throughout, just that they end the movie with like, oh my God, was it a dream? Like, that doesn't fucking matter. And I guess I also took issue with, I didn't feel like there was like enough back and forth for it to be confusing or intriguing due to difficulty understanding it.
Okay.
Like, the character goes into the machine, or they're about to start the simulation or whatever. So either he is or is not in a simulation the whole time, and that's it.
Sure.
So it's not like they then harbor it's like, oh, it's so significant that maybe it didn't actually happen. Like, no, it's fucking not. Like, what would be significant is if there were multiple times where he thought he woke up out of it, and he was like, oh God, now I have no idea which reality I'm actually in.
I gotcha. Okay.
Like, that would have been so much more interesting. I don't know what the story would have been necessarily, but if he like was bouncing back and forth or like having some kind of problem where the viewer could be uncertain about where he was, that would have been far more interesting than this movie where I'm like, okay, so he either is or is not in a simulation, and this stuff either is or isn't happening, and then it's pretty much a straight through story after that.
Sure. Yeah, this movie definitely does kind of, the way it came across to me was with this whole like, oh, is he actually the spy, or is this all the fantasy from the recall machine? This movie just kind of conveniently remembers to bring that up a few times. It's like, yes. It's just like, because it's not pervasive enough throughout the whole story. It's just like when they're like, oh shit, we forgot about this subplot. Yeah, here's just a scene about it, so we can meet our quota and then forget about it for a little bit.
Well, yeah, absolutely, and I found that to be, I don't know, incredibly disappointing, I guess.
Yeah.
And I don't expect that it's too different in the original, since in the simulation he's on Mars. Yes. So like, I like, is there even any confusion at all? Like, that either is or isn't happening, that he's suddenly on Mars. Like, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't watched it, so I don't know how that goes down, and I probably will watch it just for completeness. I actually started it and just didn't have time to finish it.
Sure.
For this recording. But so anyway, I took issue with that. I took issue with Laurie's entire character motivation. Like, why the fuck is she trying to kill Dennis Quaid? Or Doug Quaid?
Yeah, no, she's trying to kill the actor Dennis Quaid.
Yes.
In this movie.
But why the fuck is she trying to kill Doug Quaid? Like, for real, why?
Laurie is Kate Beckinsale, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Because that's the action, Ben. That's the action.
Yeah, exactly. So like that just completely doesn't make sense from the standpoint of what her character is supposed to be doing. So supposedly Cohagen has her planted as, well, like, and this plan is so ridiculously overly convoluted. Like, their plan of making him forget who he is so that he can, like, why not just let him get if he was really double crossing them, Why not just have him get the black box and then go back to them and be like, I got the information we need, and then that's the fucking hack. And then you don't have to wait 6 weeks for him to figure out who he is.
I mean, seems like a pretty straight line to me, to be honest. I think you're having some radical ideas.
What I'm trying to tell you, Rob, is with all my storyintation, this story is bad. This story is bad in that many things happen seemingly just because they want them to happen, not because they should happen.
Sure. I would definitely agree with you there. I think that this movie is very much just, and this brings up something I want to talk about with the sense of, I don't think we've gotten too hard into with remakes. I mean, we've talked a lot about remakes and this, but I think and just like their existence. But I think one way we haven't talked about them is, I think the Total Recall remake falls like this late 2000s, early 2010s. There's this period of like, oh, we're going to remake properties. It's when the phrase that like Hollywood is creatively bankrupt starts becoming like more into the populace because people are just like, they notice it. They see that everything's just a remake, a rehash, or reboot, a soft reboot, a pre-requel, a srequel, a sriracha-quel, or whatever you want to call it. And they're just like,
a mustard mayonnaise
and exactly. And so they all see this, and it's just like, oh, this is just, they're churning them out. And I feel to some extent, I believe they are churning them out. And this is an example of one where I feel like there's no good take on like, oh, I want to remake Total Recall, or it's like, I feel like remakes can be done well, where you have that reimagining aspect where, someone comes in and they goes, I love that story, I'd love to do these things with it, like I care about it. The Total Recall remake seems to be like, oh, this is something we can remake, let's then just go through the motions to remake it. It makes it very hollow, where I do think the original, with a very similar convoluted plan from the bad guy, I think pulls it off better because there's charm to it.
Okay, but does the plan actually make more sense in the original?
I remember it making more sense, but it's wildly convoluted still.
I'm just saying, like, it would have been so much easier to execute if they had just let Hauser keep his memory.
Sure.
And then he just goes back and is like, guys, I got it. And then actually it's a black box that with the encrypted shit, hacking, whatever. And then it's like, oh, boom, Bryan Cranston shows up in the no zone, which apparently is somehow connected to Australia, which is a fucking island.
It's the colony, Ben. Please use the correct name.
Okay. So it's the
pronouns,
colony, and it's the entire continent of Australia, and somehow the no zone's connected to it, and they get to it by train. Like, let's be fun. Is that like? Am I wrong? Like, they say that the continent of Australia is the colony.
The colony's connected to the no zone. The no zone's connected to the maybe zone.
And then there's the whole aspect of like this terrorist who's like, the fall enslaves us all.
Yes. Yeah, well, there's a line.
Why?
There's some line where in the beginning where they're going to the fall to like go to the Britain to work or whatever, and there's just a crazy like preacher dude, and he's like, "Don't let them shoot you through the earth like cattle."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, that's definitely how they moved cattle.
Yeah, like, and I was like, you could say that about any form of mass transportation. Don't let them fly you through the air like cattle.
Don't let them slowly roll you across metal rails like cattle.
Wake up to the truth. Cohen is counting on your complacency. Don't let them ship you across the earth like cattle.
I just like, okay, so from the standpoint of economics, generally a way to transmit oneself to an area with more opportunity is not a bad thing.
Okay.
It was not. So what I guess what I'm getting at is it's not transparent why the fall enslaves us all.
No.
Since the fall is it enables economic mobility, quite literally mobility. It's moving.
So I feel that this is the level that your favorite director, one of your favorite directors, is working on, and that this, in essence, of just being a, like I said, I think a very soulless, vacuous, going through the motions remake. I think there's no grand, reasoning to this. I think it all makes no sense because we're thinking about it too much, Ben, or you might be thinking about it too much. I think that he was like... I'm
thinking about it just the right amount.
Well, I think it's a different amount than your third favorite director did. And it's this in the sense that it's like, look at this image of the globe. And it's like, we have Australia over here, and it's kind of small. And then we got Britain over here, and it's everything else. And this one's bigger than this one, so that's the oppressing one. That's it.
But is Britain even bigger than Australia?
Well, Britain in the context of the movie, the United British Federation is like everything except Australia.
Well, no, it's just most of Europe.
Well, and Africa. They highlight Africa in the beginning of the movie.
Oh, do they?
They highlight like a lot of shit, I'm pretty sure.
I don't think so. I'm going to look up the UFB map from Recall. It's the United Federation of Britain.
UFB, okay. But I think that's it. It's like it's literally like, and then there's a way to connect them so one is above the other in our little graphic. And that's the level that I think this movie is trying to operate on, where it's just like there's a ruler and a not ruler. That's our dynamic.
Okay, yeah, well, maybe, but they didn't set that up at all.
No, yeah, absolutely, no, not at all. But I think that's they're just like
I get where you're coming from, but like in the story, and this is the problem I have in the story, they're like the fallen slaves is all, and then they never express anything that the connection to the UFB is doing that hurts Australia, the colony, until the very end, where you're like, oh, the colony is actually. Or I'm sorry, the UFB is actually faking these terrorist attacks.
Yes.
To make it look like the colony should be taken over. But there is actually a terrorist group in the colony, and they still actually believe the fallen slaves is all, and they're only attacking military bases. Right?
Poetry.
So why does the terrorist group exist for Bryan Cranston to exploit, to convince everybody that the colony is full of terrorists, when there doesn't appear to be any reason or oppression happening other than the fact that some people commute to work?
Yes, and build the police robots that then police the colony.
Police? Do they police the colony?
Yeah, we see a few there, for sure. I'm sure they police everywhere.
They mostly police UFB.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure they're everywhere if they're, making them that many.
Well, so, I don't think that we see them in the colony until after they are already searching for Hauser.
Okay.
Which I thought, and I could be wrong, that they were only the UFB police, and then the colony sent them out as like they're foreign soldiers to go deal with things in the colony that they needed to. So like at that point, they're doing some kind of like a political invasion kind of thing, where you can start to be like, okay, they're a problem, but before that, there's nothing to indicate that they're a problem. The only thing to indicate is that they have offered economic mobility to the people of the colony.
Economic oppression? Is that what you mean?
That's what the movie thinks the mobility means.
Exactly. Because it's just like, here's our dynamic, and this is bad. Bad things bad, Giant invasion. Bryan Cranston shows up at like 90 minutes into the movie and is like, I'm going to invade the universe or the colony,
I found the map. It does not include Africa. It includes pretty much all of Eastern Europe and a little bit of Western Europe that is not Russia.
Is everything else the no zone? Is that the implication?
Yes. Yeah. The colony. Yeah. And the colony is like on this map. And of course it could be, I don't actually know the relative landmass sizes, and projections are misleading when it comes to maps. But on this map, Australia is significantly bigger than UFB. Again, that's not super meaningful, but from this map, I would expect the opposite if that's what they were going for. Just bigger is meaner.
Then it goes back to what I said about the way they orient them, that you have to go, like they put Britain above the other thing. I mean, this is actually all ridiculous to even still be talking about and go as far as we are, because I don't think this is at all what the creators of this movie were thinking about. I think this is the most basic idea they can take and be like, oppressors, terrorists, and then we're going to add on all these crazy layers to, I don't even know if I want to say to make it seem smart. I think it's just, they're just taking like the most basic, improv, like they're doing an improv exercise where they scream out to the audience, be like, what setting do we want? And be like, dystopian future. What groups do we want? Oppressed and the rich ones, and stuff like that. And then they just ride with it, and it gets crazy, and improv's off the rails like this plot does.
That's actually not a bad take. This movie would be significantly better if I thought that it was improv.
And so I am with you with that, and I'm with you with everything you're saying about how crazy this plot is, and like crazy, convoluted, and coincidental. Some of it seems to be. You know, it's just all over the place. It's just so like baked into this gigantic 2-hour wrapper of just like the most tropish and, you know, mildly interesting, you know, just action movie beats that I feel like this movie is very cookie cutter. I will give you, I think you mentioned earlier, like that you liked some of the action sequences. I am also with you. There's some things in this movie I found fascinating, you know, that lasted on screen for like 5 seconds, but I was like, I really want to know more about that. And a lot of set pieces of action, like the moving cubes for transportation that they're jumping around on.
Oh yeah, like the
excellent,
thing that
you
looks
know,
like an elevator but goes in at least 2 dimensions.
Yeah, like great, like a set piece for an action scene. You know, I love that whole notion of them jumping around and, you know, like platforming. But there's just so much. I feel like they just. Once again, I think it's very cookie cutter and of the action genre, and just like, oh, we're just going through these motions to make sure this story can be called Total Recall, you know, 2012.
That's okay. So this is where my lack of familiarity with the first one is really going to hinder me, because from what I read, the plot of the first one doesn't seem all that different from the plot of this one.
If I'm remembering correctly, because I haven't watched that since we did our episode on it. The whole thing with like the faking the terrorist attacks, I don't think that's in the original. Like it is just there's a resistance group and there's Cohagen, because the
right. So
yeah,
the one thing I do understand to be the case from the first one is that there's like the mining of turbinium, and Cohagen is hiding the fact that they could be using this reactor that would destroy all of the turbinium, but would make a breathable atmosphere. So like Cohagen actually is doing a bad thing.
Yeah. And
then there's terrorists that found out about it, and they are trying to activate the reactor, I guess.
Yeah, because you know, there's this Arnold screaming, "Give these people air, Cohagen!" Like that's the thing from that movie.
Oh, okay.
Sir, the oxygen level is bottoming out in Sector G. What do you want me to do about it?
Don't do anything.
But they won't last an hour, sir.
Fuck them. Be a good lesson to the others.
Come on, Cohagen, you got what you want. Give these people air.
The thing that I'm not sure about is Arnold supposed to be like a double crossing or a double? Yeah, I guess double crossing agent. He was like put there by Cohagen, but actually,
if I'm remembering correctly, I believe that was the initial plan, but he then gets swayed to the side of the good guys.
Okay.
Of the resistance, I guess.
So,
not to
editorialize.
The
same as Colin Farrell's situation in this, that he was supposed to be there as a Cohagen stooge, and then he...
Yeah. So that emotional arc is the same, or like the Hauser arc.
In the original, how does he end up with his memory erased?
I would have to rewatch it to remember that.
Okay. So that was like another issue I had, is like they come up with this like convoluted plan to erase his memory. And then it's like, what? They can erase people's memories, but like they can't interact with them. They couldn't learn from his memories that he was actually going to be a double crosser. Like I don't know.
Sure.
So like I guess they tell us like he was actually a bad guy the whole time is what it would have us believe. Well, until he got his memory erased, and then he became a good guy. Mm-hmm. Versus what the other people believe, which is he was a bad guy, then became a good guy, and then got his memory erased. And Cohagen actually, I guess, in the process of erasing his memory, set up the trap. But again, if that's what would happen, either way, it makes so much more sense if they don't erase his memory.
And again, it is all a dream. So, did they really erase anybody's memory?
It's like I said, I'm already watching something that didn't happen.
Yes.
Why you got to tell me it didn't happen even more than that? Like, it's like you thought this didn't happen, but it really didn't.
So I'm totally on board with you with the convoluted nature of this story and the twisting around they do with it in this movie. With exposition scenes and stuff like that. I definitely kind of just, once again, I think talking about this wrapper of all this other like nonsense that I think is, the more cookie cutter action movie stuff. I am not into just it's not like the refusal of the call. It's like when the hero knows he has to do something, but he's like just in maybe it's a version of the refusal to call. But like Colin Farrell, like as he's learning more about like this plan and who he is, and like the plot is unraveling as we watch the movie, there's so many scenes where he's just like, "Who, me? Like I can do this stuff? Like, huh? Like I'm the hero of this story?" Like there's a scene where I think some video of like Ethan Hawke or someone as him is, or I think Colin Farrell talking to himself on the video is like, you know, "This is not your face." Like they change your face. Like if you're watching this, I've already lost my memories or whatever. And then he's like, you know, "You have to find the key. You have to find the key." And then the video ends, and Colin Farrell's like, "I have to find the key." And I'm like, this is some just like first grade level, you know, writing bullshit nonsense. And I'm like, this is not interesting at all. This is just like bottom of the barrel. Like it's like, okay, oh wow, the key, like that's our MacGuffin now. We have to find that. It came across as very, very immature.
Well, I agree with you, except that it doesn't even end up being like a true MacGuffin because it doesn't matter for very long.
Yeah, that's right.
I will say, like, just like a little bit of benefit of the doubt or a little bit of like generous interpretation in that scene where he's like, I have to find the key after that. There is at least some feeling that I got from watching that scene where he's just like, "I really wish you had told me what the key was, because I don't fucking know what the key is, and I know I have to find the key."
Yeah.
So like it came across a little bit to me like he was just like, I know that, but I don't know what it is. So like I said, again, that's like generous interpretation here.
Yes. Generous interpretation. Ben, you can just call it as it is. Standing up for your third favorite director.
Sucking the metaphorical dick.
Sucking the metaphorical dick. Ben, would you like to talk about Len Wiseman? Would you like to read? That was good. I know you were going to be able to. I knew you were going to be able to get the context clues of who that name represents, but you went the good joke route of just denying those context clues. Perfect. I am actually interested to know if you are into Len Wiseman's other movies, of which there aren't very many, but he's the guy who made the first two Underworld movies. Are you familiar with those? I feel like you've talked to me about them.
I have seen those movies. Those are movies that I like wanted to like, but overall was not impressed with.
Okay, right on.
Like I went into them and I was like, "Oh, this seems like a cool idea," and then I watched it and I was like, "This is not well executed."
I've only seen the first one, and it was a real long time ago. But I would imagine if I watched it today, I would have very similar thoughts about it being a generic action movie with a crazy setting of vampires and werewolves.
Is it also Beckinsale?
It is.
Okay, I thought while I was watching this, I was like, I think that's the chick from Underworld.
Yeah, oh yeah, it definitely
I didn't know that he directed that also.
So, I think it's like
Small World.
I think it's like 2004 to 2019. Len Wiseman.
It's almost like directors have certain actors they like.
Not only Ben did he like Kate Beckinsale, he loved Kate Beckinsale. They were married from 2004 to 2019.
Shit, that's longer than the 30 minutes most Hollywood marriages get.
Right, exactly. Have you seen Live Free or Die Hard? That's one of the.
I have seen that one.
Okay, he directed that. I think that's the one.
If I remember right, I didn't hate it as much as a lot of people did.
Okay.
But I also don't have a strong familiarity with the Die Hard franchise, so I went into it expecting an action movie, and that's what I was given.
Yep. I'm pretty sure that's the one where Justin Long is like the hacker. And so he's like the nerdy sidekick. I think that's that one.
And he's just like, am I a good guy?
Something like that. Thing? Yeah.
Or am I a bad hacker that did a good thing?
Well, that's the best scene in the movie where he's having that like existential crisis, and Bruce Willis just turns to him and goes, "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker," and shoots him in the head, and you're like, "Wow, this is minute 40," But it doesn't live up to the hype. That's just the peak of the movie. The other hour 20 is more Len Wiseman bullshit. But I
think somebody throws a car at a helicopter in that movie or something.
That sounds correct. I think that might be just a staple of the Die Hard franchise. Yeah.
If I remember right, when I was 15 or 16 or however old I was when that came out, that was really cool.
Yes.
When I was that old.
Exactly. The other thing Len Wiseman is attached to, and I know you know this, Ben, but I'll tell the cinema audience. He's working on apparently the upcoming movie called Ballerina, which I didn't know anything about, but I looked into. It's apparently going to be the first John Wick spin-off movie. So a movie about someone in the John Wick universe And Keanu Reeves is on the cast list, so he might have a cameo. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know anything about it. I don't really have any plans to see John Wick 4 until it's like streaming or something.
Okay.
I don't think I'm going to go see it in theaters.
That's reasonable.
But yeah, that's Len Wiseman, and in the show notes, as every week this series, Ben, I will put links to your fan club pages.
Awesome.
And are you offering? Let's get our ad revenue. Are you offering our fans and listeners any promos or disc? Like, is there a promo code? Like, is there you go to your checkout to order? I don't know, hats. I think we talked about hats at your fan club.
Yeah.
Like they go to order hats and shirts, and they put in the promo code, and of course, it makes it more expensive. You got any of those?
Yes. And they are only available if you're a Patreon member.
Ooh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
What about a promo code that you have to pick out a shirt, and so you find the design you like, you click on it, add to cart, you add like a large. You have a coupon code, you have a promo code that you got, you type it in, and it just changes the size of your shirt to like a small, and you can't change it back.
We do have one that changes the size, but it does so randomly because we were concerned people would figure out the algorithm and just order the appropriate shirt to get changed to the correct size. So we made it pseudo random. It doesn't repeat, but yeah.
I like the thought of people ordering a shirt from your fan club, expecting it to show up in a different size than the one they ordered, and then they end up getting the package and it's a hat. So then it's just like you got fucked. You didn't even know. It's like you didn't see that one coming, And it's really behind the scenes at shipping and receiving of the director's fan clubs. Ben's director's fan club is just like you're just boxing things and slapping an address. You're like, this person placed an order. Here's a box. Here you go.
That's right. Actually, all the items are pre-boxed. And we just get the orders and slap on the labels. It's faster.
Yeah, exactly. And what? Don't people already have businesses like that are loot crates or whatever? Here's a box of random shit. People are like, I'll pay $60 for that.
That's right.
And they're like, I got a necklace. It's cursed, and it's like, I can see you're trying really hard to make that $60 seem worth it. I could have gotten that necklace for 60 tickets down at the Fun Central there, okay? That'd be 30 minutes of playing that fucking light spinning game where you got to stop it on the middle one to win a bunch, right? Ben knows what I'm talking about.
I do. I'm intimately familiar with the light spinning game.
So, Len Wiseman, like I said, I think First Underworld, Live Free and Die Hard, I think he's just this action man movie director, and I could not get over that with this movie. I found it so much as like this shallow version of the original, which I think I mentioned, but I'll restate. I do very much enjoy that original. It's a great Paul Verhoeven
I'm going to have to
movie.
watch it because from everything I've read, it also sounds pretty stupid.
No, Ben, no. No, I definitely want you to check it out.
I'm just saying.
I think you should definitely give it a watch.
Perspective.
It is definitely worth watching. But yeah, this comes across to me, like I said, as this soulless remake, and I do want to make a little comparison because it is interesting. We've talked a lot about Arnold Schwarzenegger in the past in comparison to The Rock. I know you've seen some of Total Recall 1990, so you've seen Arnold in this role of Quaid. What do you think of Colin Farrell as like an action man? What do you like? I mean, he's been in action types before, not so much recently. But like, what do you think of Colin Farrell? And what do you think of him as this like secret agent action role?
I think he plays the action character fine. I don't think that it's like particularly bad. I don't know that I would say it's particularly good, but I think that his opening scene where like we first see him do action stuff, and he like shoots what the news thinks is 20 people, but he thinks it's more like 10 people.
Yeah.
At Recall with a K, which is spelled different than the title of the movie, which is fucking stupid. Also, during that scene, I'm like, yeah, he does all right. It's believable.
Okay.
To a degree. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind him really in the action stuff. I think his other action performances. Remember he was Bullseye in the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie?
Oh my God!
Yeah, he was Bullseye.
Wow.
He has some action scenes in chasing Tom Cruise in Minority Report. Oh, Minority Report originally written
Chasing Amy?
No, Chasing Tom. Minority Report was originally written as a sequel to Total Recall, but they scrapped that eventually as the movie was developed. But that's a fun little tidbit for you, and Colin Farrell was in that one. I think Colin Farrell fails at doing the bewildered, thrown into the mix, like just regular guy who finds out he's this super spy, dream or not aside, fantasy or not aside. I think that he does not play this kind of like before he really knows everything that's going on, like the who me, like the stuff I mentioned, like the key, like even in the scene when he's talking to Ethan Hawke's floating head above the piano, and Ethan Hawke says something like, I think Ethan Hawke explicitly says that, like, they took me and they changed my face to look like you, and Colin Farrell's like, I'm you or something like that, and I'm like, don't we know this already? Like, why is he still confused about this?
Well,
I want the movie to
I agree
keep
with
up,
you, but that's just bad writing.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. So so what you're saying is it might not all be Colin Farrell's fault. And I can agree with you there for sure, because it is just not great material, to say the least.
The one thing I think about that scene that I did like, which from the little bit of the first movie that I watched, seems to be a throwback or a callback to the first movie, where he's just like, this recording has limited interactive ability, try rephrasing your question. Mm-hmm. Apparently the cab driver, they put him in a cab after they knock him out at the recall place.
Yeah.
And the cab's like, rephrase the question. And he's just like, how did I get in here? And it's like, you opened the door and got in. So that felt like a little callback when I was watching.
Sure.
So that I kind of appreciated. I appreciated, instead of them being like, I don't know what you mean, it just being like, we have limited capabilities.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
You have to say specific things.
I guess on that notion of you liking that, what do you think about this depiction of a dystopian future, of a future? What do you think of this future tech that we see in this movie?
I was going to say, what's so dystopian about this future?
Ben, that there's oppressors and there's the oppressed, and there's a big tube in the earth that keeps them oppressed. I thought we covered this already.
Did we?
I like that big tube in the earth.
Yeah, that's right. The fall, it enslaves us all.
Well, I do want to talk about the actual fall. That's this big thing in this movie. I do want to talk about that. What do you think about like the cell phone hand? The phone thing in like the Christmas lights that go in your hand, that is a cell phone / Minority Report style, you can display screens on glass type of thing.
I think I only have like one thing to say about that, and it's fucking rejection. Your body would reject it.
I don't know. I think that our human bodies are kind of craving some internal technology this day and age,
I mean, I guess it's kind of neat, but I don't know about you, but I'm not getting my fucking hand cut open to put a phone in it.
I could be tempted.
I'm just saying, in the future, I'm probably still going to have pockets.
You know what? Not a phone. You're right. I definitely would not want a phone in my body. Something else,
yeah, because then someone's going to be like, you didn't answer when I called, and you're like, I didn't know where my phone was, and they'll be like, you're fucking lying to me because it's in your hand.
Exactly,
Then you have to confront your problems. Like, I didn't want to talk to you, and that's uncomfortable for everybody.
Remember those hand buzzers like clowns would use, like you put in your palm, and then you like shake someone's hand and it shocks them.
Yes, yeah. I exclusively use those handshakes.
That's what I'm saying.
I've never shaken someone's hand.
I would get a scientific, tech enhancement of one of those in my palm, so I just would always shock
a full scale taser in your hand. It's not a harmless shock.
That would be great. Like it's the equivalent of just like a cattle prod into them,
People are like, it's nice to meet you, and be like, yeah, it is.
That would be pretty dope. Yeah, I would cut my hand open for that for sure. I would do that. I'm
just saying, some of my best days are when I don't know that I don't know where my phone is.
I agree with that for sure. What if you had like coils put in your hand so that you could like turn them on, or turn like the mechanism in your hand on or off, and if you turned it on, it would basically turn your hand into like a little hot plate, and so you could like boil a cup of water or something just on your hand.
I expect that would hurt me.
Well, you'd do it right, and you'd have to like remove all your real skin around your hand and stuff. You'd probably just end up with a robotic hand.
Yeah, okay.
Have an oven hand.
If I wanted to be Darth Vader, I would have made different life decisions. Okay.
I got my oven hand. I got my normal hand.
My normal hand.
I don't know.
I'm about to heat some shit up with my oven hand.
Now there you go. That's a banger. That's a banger. That's our cover of a Crud Bump song. Perfect. Oven hand. I would probably cut my hand open for oven hand. I think the possibilities of oven hand are pretty great. I'm into
the
that.
only thing we've been having a good jolly all the time. I'm going to make it a little bit serious again. I think the only thing I would get implanted in my hand would be some kind of ID that carried with it SSL certificates so that I could encrypt my communication on the go.
Okay, interesting.
So, like, instead of having to scan a badge when I walk up to a building, I would just, like, put my hand on it, and then it would try to make a network call to some server, and it would use my certificate as the exchange certificate for the encrypted communication, and it would know who I was. And it would just be like, all right, he either is or is not allowed in this building.
I think
that would be the only thing I would be interested in.
I think that is would be very useful, and that's a great idea. But until we can further investigate the true possibilities that oven hand unlocks, we can't really say which one is better yet.
That's all right. That's fair. Does oven hand come with like colored jewels so you can be like, I'm Thanos. I can heat. Like watch as this ice cube melts a little faster than you expected.
That would be so cool, Ben. Don't tell me you wouldn't go to a party and be like, watch me melt this shit. You know? That'd be awesome. I think you could definitely like get your oven hand customized, you know, so you could bejewel it or bedazzle it any way you please.
How do you feel about like LED style tattoos, or like not LED style, but like a tattoo that can like move around?
Oh, that's pretty cool. Like Rorschach's mask from Watchmen. Yeah. I would be into that. I would probably get a small moving tattoo.
What would it be?
I think it'd be a small tadpole and it'd move all around my body. And I'd have to find it every day. No, that's actually, so I'm thinking more that like a moving tattoo would be like a tattoo in the same vein as the pictures in the newspaper in the Harry Potter movies, because they move, you know? Yeah. So I would have to think about that. If I got a tattoo that moved like that, like looked like 3D and alive, I would have to think about what I'd get. Off the top of my head, probably Rick and Morty logo, but I'll give it some more thought.
I think I would just want a screen that I could control, like not a screen, but a surface of my body where I could control whatever words were printed there with my mind.
Ooh, okay. Interesting.
I know that you didn't know mind control was a possibility for these moving tattoos, and that I basically cheated by adding
fine.
it.
No, it's fine.
Okay, that's what I would do. I would that way whenever I'm irritated or whatever, I can like lose control of my ability to not send thoughts directly to that, and I'll just be like, fuck this person, like just on my arm.
And you will constantly be regretting that you got this tattoo on your forehead.
Yes, it would basically be like everybody can read my mind, except it would be everybody who can read my mind.
Okay, I dig that. Okay.
That was a long way to go for that joke.
Yeah, how did we get here? Okay, yeah. So
I feel like we just became a different podcast. This doesn't feel like a Cinemodities episode.
Because this movie sucks. This was hard. I did not think that I was going to dislike this much, I thought there was going to be some charm. I mean, Total Recall 1990, it is like a fairly well-known movie, but it's not like, it was it did do well also back in the day, but I mean, like, it's not like a classic. Everybody's like, you gotta see Total Recall. So I thought it getting remade was going to be like, oh, there's some thought, like some care behind it. Like, there's a reason this, like, they wanted to remake this property specifically. And it just comes across as no, it's like, oh, it is a property, let's take it because no one else has taken it yet, and then just churn it out into a remake, and it's a bummer. Let's talk about the good things, because one of the good things is The Fall. I do want to talk about that. I am into...
Oh, I thought you were going to say Dave Chappelle is Harry.
Nope, not there yet. But
okay, all right, The Fall, let's go.
I think The Fall is a really neat idea. I'm actually into them showing off like the mechanisms that it uses, the big shots of it for like the scale of it.
Like the way it like flips whenever they pass the core and stuff. Yeah, I definitely thought a lot of that was pretty neat.
I am totally into it, and since that comes up so much, so early on in the movie, one of my notes is like, I hope that this movie is basically all about this transportation device. Like, I want to know how long did it take them to build it? How did they build it? I was like, I want a whole movie about this.
That's a serious question, because post a war that made every other part of the Earth unlivable.
Exactly.
We're expected to believe these people figured out drilling through the fucking Earth technology, which I don't know if you know this. We can't do that yet.
Yes.
So it is new. They figured it out post the war.
Do you remember from the picture of the globe? Is it through the exact center of the Earth? It's not like
I don't think it can be, given that it connects Britain to Australia. Well, I don't think that would go through the direct center.
They moved them for this movie, Ben. Okay,
okay. All I can tell you for certain is that they do say at one point that they're passing the core.
Yes.
But that does not mean that it, like, okay, well, let me put it this way also. If we're going to assume any amount of realism, the core is liquid, and sending a tube through it like this would fuck up the magnetic field of the Earth. So I doubt that they would have done that. Yep.
Okay. That's where I'm coming from, where I'm like, this can't, like, how'd they get through the core, you know? Like,
I don't think, I wouldn't have been able to watch the movie if I thought it was through the core. I just assumed it wasn't.
Okay, I dig that. It was like a defense mechanism for your brain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, oh no.
I think if when you get your interview with Len Wiseman for your Len Wiseman fan club, definitely ask him if the fall in Total Recall 2012 goes through the center of the Earth. You have to ask him this, but I can tell you exactly how that's going to play out. He's going to say yes. He's going to say yes. It goes through the core, and you're going to go, that can't happen. Like, that's not possible. Why does it go through the core? And Len Wiseman is going to look you in the eyes and go, because it's cool. Fuck you, that's why.
He's going to say, that's the problem you have with this movie? He'll be like, I wish I didn't direct this movie.
Yeah, I think you would ask him something like, you're like, I have a lot of problems with, like, the plot machinations and the script and kind of how, like, the screenplay just breaks down. And Len Wiseman goes, screenplay?
Wait, you thought that we had a script?
Yeah, exactly.
We just let Colin Farrell do some stuff, and then we told people to put CGI behind him.
Yep. And it's
it
like,
was pretty cool.
I just added in a bunch of B-roll from, these underworld movies. You ever hear of those? And be like, yeah, didn't you make those? Oh, shit, I did.
I still get royalties for that.
The fall, like I said, is really cool, though. I like that idea. And I like it. I don't think it's, like, the best thing that it gets blown up at the end of the movie. But
it's certainly not good for their economic mobility.
Exactly, but it is good for the oppression. They're no longer oppressed because there's not a tube above them anymore.
The tube's not even above them.
The tube's above them, Ben. It's Australia. Everything's upside down. They had to turn the camera upside down.
Gravity switches at the core, Rob. There's 2 scenes about that.
And then gravity switches back at Australia. It's a well-known fact.
It's like, no, but for real, there are 2 scenes about the fact that gravity switches.
Yes. So I wanted to bring up this whole thing about, does this go through the core? Does the fall go through the core?
The Core is actually a better movie. We should watch that.
That's literally what I was about to say, Ben, is that The Core is also a movie. The Fall is also a movie.
We should pair The Fall and The Core together.
Yeah.
And then we got Total Recall.
And I would bet you damn near anything that there is some movie somewhere called The Colony, or a TV show.
Okay, hold on. I just had an idea. What if they knew how bad this movie was, and the reason it was called Total Recall was not because it was supposed to be a remake of that property, but because they expected that there would be a class action lawsuit and all the DVD copies of this movie would have to be recalled.
Sure, possibly. And then they were like, oh, it turns out there's already a movie that's like has a cult following that is called Total Recall. It's just a remake of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
They were just like, let's take our bad plot and slam it into that movie until we have an equally or worse bad plot that includes a place spelled recall with a K.
With a K.
All right.
That's the cool way, Ben. And you know how I spell cool?
With a K.
And
probably.
And an E-W-L. K-E-W-L.
I really wonder, like, obviously Recall, the place, Recall, like, obviously that was important for the selection of the name of this movie. Like, am I wrong in thinking that?
I think for this movie and the original, of course, both of these are based off of a short story from Philip K. Dick called "We Can Remember It For You Wholesale."
That's a rough name.
That's a name. It's grown on me over the years as I've read that title and said it more. We can remember it for you wholesale. My Letterboxd review for this movie was, I wish I could forget it wholesale. I'd even pay sticker price. But so these are both based on this short story, Philip K. Dick, and even though I have not read that short story, I have looked into it. The company that does this memory thing, which is the basis for the short story, is called Recall.
With a K?
I don't know for sure.
That's irrelevant. I guess my point is, why didn't they just keep it consistent from the title to the name of this company?
I get you. Yeah, that's a dumb choice.
No need to beat the dead horse, I guess. But
yeah, like, could you imagine? No, now that I think about it more, I am more bothered by that as you bring it up, because imagine if Mortal Kombat was called Combat with a C. Everybody would have revolted. Like, the Second American Revolution would have occurred, or Civil War.
Yeah, they would have been
occurred.
like the movie itself spelled with the C, but then in the movie they spell it with the K, and you're like,
yes.
I think at that moment you might just die.
You
see that.
Interesting. That's the equivalent of just like, sudden death syndrome.
Like you might vomit and keel over.
Okay, right on.
And then hopefully your family will know to sue them, but they'll probably try to watch the movie first and then also die.
Interesting. I like this. So I think.
Sorry, I'm kind of in rare form. This movie's
good.
Got me heated.
Yeah, this heated. Fucking Total Recall. So I think this whole tangent came off of. I brought up the core thing. Does this go through the core? Because I was interested in that more when the fall gets blown up at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I would love. I wanted this movie to be all about this transportation device, which it clearly is not all about it. I want the sequel to this movie to be like
all about cleaning up the wreckage.
Not only cleaning it up, but like, what is the impact on the Earth that now like a bunch of fiery debris, like a lot of fiery debris, is in this giant tunnel through the Earth? Like,
probably not very much.
That's a cool thing. That's like a cool writing prompt.
I agree, but it is an insignificant amount of mass compared to the rest of the Earth.
It's going to be so much fucking damage in the sequel, Ben. Just you wait.
Well, and I guess actually that raises another question, which is they removed it's probably still an insignificant amount of mass from the Earth, but a pretty hefty amount.
Oh yeah.
Like, did they fuck up the orbit? Where did they put that? I mean, I don't know. They could have just moved it somewhere else into the no zone or the no-no parts? What is it called?
Yeah. How can you not? When I heard them say what Jessica Biel or someone in the movie was like, it's the no zone or whatever, I was like, that has a clear meaning this day and age. If you hear the no zone, you think no zone. You think like the joke of like, don't touch me there, or maybe you think more seriously of don't touch me there. It's not a good name at all.
No, and I don't know that was different in 2012.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't remember do you remember there was a similar area in V for Vendetta? Like there was like where the sickness was?
Zone?
It was similar to the no-no zone.
I thought you were saying there's a similar area to a child's genitals. No, I don't remember what it was called now.
Okay, yeah, but it's very similar. I don't remember it probably because it just has a nondescript name that isn't fucking stupid like the no zone.
Well, so okay, I think if I remember right, at the very latest that this became a thing, it was from that "Look What I Can Do" kid on Mad TV, right?
Oh, okay, yeah, Michael McDonald, yep.
So when was that? Like, that was at the very latest that this became a thing.
Sure, and that was way earlier than this movie.
So yeah,
yeah.
Like the no-no zone, don't touch me in my no-no zone, don't travel by train to my no-no zone. It's all there.
This is my no-no square. Do not touch me there. There's some like rhyme or something about that. I swear. But yeah, I think that should be the sequel. We should have a whole fall trilogy, the fall trilogy. and then so each it's a trilogy of movies about the fall. First one just called The Fall because that's fine, and you can have movies titled the same thing. The second,
it's actually illegal.
It's gonna be an indie film. We'll be fine. But then somewhere in the sequels, like it'll be The Fall, like the two sequels be Fall, and then a subtitle. One of them has to be The Fall, Rising. I think that would be an excellent
Two Rising.
Two Rise. or no, this is even better. It's The Fall, this time we're going up, or something like that,
No, okay, so that has to be the third movie, because the second movie just has, so it's The Fall, and then it's The Fall, we're past the core, and then it's the Fall, this time we're going up.
Okay. Yo, that's good. Yeah, that
or no, The Fall, we're approaching the core.
Yes. Yeah, we have the three phases. No, I like that. Sold. Okay. So The Fall's pretty cool. The other thing that I found insanely interesting that I once again wanted the whole movie to be about, there is a scene where Jessica Biel is driving a car and a car chase is happening. Colin Farrell's in the passenger seat, and there is a moment where she says, "Here, you drive," and passes him the steering wheel. And I was like, well, now you've got me intrigued. That's a neat fucking idea.
Absolutely, but I couldn't help but be a little practical about it, and I was like, "Are they moving the whole steering column? Like, how is this? Is this just like digitally controlling the steering column?" So then, I mean, that would work if you just had something that was like reading its relative position, relative angular position.
I think
and
you're
then
missing the Occam's razor solution to this question, and it's that the cars are transformers. And they can just shift around as quickly and fluidly as they need to.
No, that makes sense. You're right. I can't believe I missed that.
That would be great to do like one of those YouTube things. It'd be like 10 things you missed about Total Recall 2012. Number 6. The cars are actually Transformers.
Is this a cracked article?
Yes, exactly. Okay. It's some cracked.com bullshit. But yeah, that car thing was awesome. I was like, wow, that is a neat idea. Way better than
Jessica Biel using a gun. Women aren't even allowed to touch guns, I think.
Let's talk about Jessica Biel, because I don't think she's great in this movie. I think she is Jessica Biel, but I don't even think that. Yeah,
I was gonna say I'm so biased in favor of Jessica Biel that I don't know that I can like objectively talk about this.
I don't think she's great, but
I loved her in Seventh Heaven personally.
Okay. Did you like her in what's that? I Now Pronounce You Chuck and
Blade
Larry
2? Oh, Blade 2. I like seeing that much of her.
You like seeing her get groped by Adam Sandler?
Not specifically, but what she was wearing while it happened.
Okay. She was Jessica Biel for this movie and one other that I didn't write down, but that was kind of like a dual nomination. Was nominated for Worst Supporting Actress at the Razzies. And I always like to
bad.
Yeah, it was this with one other thing which I didn't know what it was and I didn't write it down, so maybe I'll put a correction in. But it was something I'd never heard of. Yeah, they just didn't like her, but I think also the Razzies very famously they just don't like women, and that's like maybe 20% a joke. They are very their track record is very misogynistic, but whatever. I did want to bring up though, Jessica Biel, like I said.
If a woman had said that to me, I wouldn't have given it any credit. But for you to say that to me, so is that too far? Is that a good joke? I don't know.
No,
am I a bad man that did a good joke?
You are. I think you're a bad man that did a bad joke. I think it's bad all around.
That's not one of the options.
I did want to bring up, though, that Jessica Biel, like I said, is just nominated for this Razzie, loses out to Rihanna in Battleship.
Oh.
I know you've seen Battleship.
Yeah. I have.
I haven't, but Rihanna was the worst supporting actress that year. The only reason I remember Rihanna is in that movie, even though I've never seen it, is because she was all over the trailers.
But did that movie also get like the worst fucking movie idea ever award or something? Because like that's
a good.
If
question.
It didn't, then that is clear misogyny. Because she's not any worse than that script is. I've never seen it. I don't remember it. I have seen it. I don't remember her acting in it, but I can guarantee she's no worse than that script is.
That sounds believable. I totally believe you there. You know what? Now I actually want to pull it up to see what else happened at that Razzies, because I could totally see Battleship getting a bunch of awards or nominations at least. Is
it just me, or is this episode clearly been an attempt by us to not discuss this movie?
Oh no, that is 100% what it has been so far.
Okay.
I'm hitting. I have a handful of
you
points.
Are hitting points.
I have a handful of them that are nowhere near as many as I usually do, and I'm trying to sprinkle them in.
I guess I hit a lot of points out the gate, so mine were all bad. But.
So Battleship does not get Worst Picture at the Razzies that year. The Twilight Saga: Breaking Dawn Part 2, Part 2 gets Worst Picture.
Oh boy.
Another thing that's nominated is something called The Oogie Loves in the Big Balloon Adventure. I don't know. That seems like they misstep. That seems like a banger. Okay.
Sounds like gold.
I want to see what else Battleship got nominated for. Worst Supporting Actor, Liam Neeson in that movie. Rihanna won for Worst Supporting Actress, as we said. Peter Berg got nominated for Worst Director. The Twilight guy won. Got Worst Screenplay. Okay.
Do those always go hand in hand, like Worst Movie and Worst Director? Like
some with the nominations, yeah, that usually happens. And then it was nominated for the Worst Screen Ensemble, but lost to the Twilight movie. So it just like literally the nomination is the entire cast of Battleship. Like the ensemble is like all the actors in the movie. So they're just like, what's the worst collection of actors in a movie?
Okay, I mean, I guess I feel like they're kind of reaching. Like, how different is that from just this is the worst movie?
I have no idea. It's an awards show. It's based off the.
You know what,
Oscars.
Rob? I expect you to have all the answers when you tell me about anything.
Well, how is it? It's different because they're different words, Ben. That's the answer.
Oh.
A collection of actors is not the same words as a movie.
I never considered that.
So yeah, tune in next week for Battleship.
They told me that at a movie.
At a movie. Tune in next week where Ben gets to defend Peter Berg as his fourth favorite director.
Yes, Battleship is definitely a remake.
Of the classic commercial that the board game was related to. It's a remake of the commercial that was on television for the board game. You know, that's a common misconception. They think it's a film adaptation of the board game. It's actually a remake of the commercial. I don't think the Razzies got that. It's a reimagining that is eerily similar to the concept of the board game itself. But you don't have to confuse the two.
That's right.
Now we're getting into the no zone.
Don't touch my no-no square.
Don't touch my no-no square. I'm trying to think. Okay, here's one thing that popped up we have to talk about. I 100% never knew, even without never seeing this movie, I knew that like Colin Farrell was the lead. I knew Bryan Cranston was the bad guy. That was big news when he got cast. It's like, from Breaking Bad, is he going into movies and stuff, I did not know that John Cho shows up for one scene with fucking bleached blonde hair, a pencil-thin goatee. He looks odd.
You better believe it. When I saw John Cho, I was like, hey, John Cho's in this.
Yes, I was very excited. He's a great actor, and his one scene is awesome. And he gets to be in the scene, which is like, it is well done in this movie, and I think it's hard to mess up such a good scene. But like when our main character Quaid goes into the recall machine, and the big switch happens, where like something seemingly goes wrong. I mean, that's just a great scene, In the original, I love it. Like that.
So I did watch that scene in the original.
Okay.
In the original, I at no point was like, oh, he's just in the simulation. I was like, oh, he's fucked up now.
Yeah.
Whereas in this movie, I was like, oh, I think he might just be in the simulation.
Yeah, because I
don't know if that's better or worse.
Sure. John Cho has that line in the remake where he's like, when the switch happens and things starts to go wrong, he says like, take that needle out of him or get that needle out of him before it takes or something like that.
Yeah.
And so they're laying it on pretty thick that it's like, oh, did it take? Like, is he in there? That type of thing.
All right, let's get this show on the road. Get ready to save the world. Happy trails, man. You can tell me all about it when you get... Wait. What?
Shit, what is it? What's wrong?
Yank that needle out before it takes.
What are you from?
You lied.
Lied about what?
Son of a bitch.
Look, I don't have a mistress. What are you talking about?
You're a goddamn spy.
Yeah, it's not as seamless as the original, but still, I love that idea. Like, that's a cool action movie idea of just like, oh my god, shit just went left real quick. And John Cho's good at that when he pulls out the gun and he's like, you lied to us or whatever. I'm like, right. I'm into that for sure.
Definitely. Him pulling out the gun is maybe the reason that I was like, okay, this is still the simulation.
Sure.
It's like, why does he have a gun?
Yeah, it was odd that it just phased into his hand, and you're like, oh, I guess that's just future tech in this movie.
But that was something I was unclear about in the first movie. The original are you supposed to think that throughout, or are you supposed to think that he's not in the simulation throughout? And then maybe was it all a dream at the end is a little more impactful.
Yes, that's how it comes across for sure.
Okay, so it's like so in this movie they did it worse because it's like, oh, this could be the simulation from the beginning.
Yeah, and not only did they do that, but like I said, then they just conveniently remember it and lay it on super heavy again. Like this whole scene with Bokeem Woodbine, his friend, who shows up and he's like, "We're in the office and recall. Like I came in here to get you out." That whole encounter. Right. Like that goes on for a while.
I definitely took that scene. Again, this is maybe his generous interpretation. I took that scene to be like them trying to persuade him to stop. Like I took it like Harry's part of the plan, part of the bad guys, and this is his attempt at this is just their attempt at getting this done without bloodshed. Because for whatever reason, they still want him alive.
Yeah, something like that. I don't think they ever explicitly say it in this movie, but I definitely got the sense that like the friend was just another like planted person in his life, like the wife.
Right.
And yeah, totally on his side, that type of thing. What would you do if you were confronted with this? Like you're in a simulation, you need to do something to get out of it. What would your response be? Because I know what I would do. I would start blasting.
Do I know I'm in a
everybody.
Simulation?
No, you're just told by somebody. So what I'm saying is somebody comes to me and says, you're in a simulation, I'm going aggro immediately.
All right, well, so physicists have been telling us we're in a simulation for a while now.
Well, Ben, this is the end of the episode because I'm about to flip my fucking table over.
If somebody told me that I was in a simulation, like the real answer, I would think that person was crazy.
Sure, okay.
But if I found myself in a situation where it was like, oh, I actually don't know if I'm in a simulation or not, the way that Doug Quaid does in this movie. Mm-hmm. Doug Quaid, also known as Henry Reed, also known as Doogie Howser. I don't know. I mean, so that is one thing. This, and I'm sure the original, from the sounds of it, maybe does a better job. This movie does bring up the idea that like if something is true in your brain, it is true for you.
Sure. Yeah.
And that actually connects to this kind of dumb idea that people say about like, their lived experience or whatever. It's like, yeah, you have this thing in your brain that you believe you experienced, and therefore that is your reality, but that doesn't make it real.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that this movie is, or at least again, the original idea seems to be kind of about that idea.
Yeah. So I'm glad you bring this up because I want to. One of the more interesting things I think that I was thinking about while watching this movie, because I was very much unengaged, is this notion of the recall machine. This putting memories in people's heads, and that is basically like what it does. That's what we're told it does. We're not really given any specifics in this movie in the original. I don't even think the short story is like very much specific about anything for the recall machine. Oh yeah, exactly. Because it's a science
sci-fi
topic.
It's like, oh, it's chemistry, and we just do a chemistry thing.
Yeah,
and suddenly you have a memory.
But like in all these things, it's implanting these memories. In the movies, in particular, it's very much like, oh, we can make it so. Why actually go on a vacation when you can just remember the vacation? That type of thing.
Sure.
I'm more interested in how do we push this to its limits? Like, can we give you? I'm sure you can, but it's just not done because it wouldn't be good for business. But like, is there some weird black market like torture thing where somebody gets kidnapped because they owe a lot of money, and you use the recall machine to give them bad memories?
Give them memories of their like child dying in front of them.
Yeah, like things that like horrible events that like never happened. Like, can it maybe?
There would be a market for that. Actually,
exactly.
I don't think that it would be strictly a bad thing. I think that there would be people who are like, I like scary movies. I want to go have my brain think I'm in a scary movie.
Sure, exactly. Are there like people playing pranks on their friends where they get drunk and pass out, and so they put the drunk friend into the recall machine and they give him memories that he shit his pants or something like that? I don't know. It's like,
and while he's experiencing that memory, he actually does shit his pants. It's great.
And then that causes the paradox in the machine, and we have to lobotomize him because the memories can't be true, and so. Actually, it turns out that he has just shit his pants before, and that's how everyone finds out. Oh, what happened to Ted? We had to lobotomize him. We fucked up. We tried to recall him into shitting his pants, and turned out he had shit his pants. I'd be like, what a loser. Like, I keep going. Can it give you, I'm assuming, when I say can it give you, Ben, I'm not really asking for an answer to yes or no, because I know we don't know that. I'm just saying this more as my way to list these ideas that I've had regarding it.
Sure. Okay. Gotcha.
Like, can we give somebody the memories of something that has yet to happen, or physically
I feel like you're really intruding on snacks right now.
This is in the snacks section of my notes.
Okay, so maybe we should save this for snacks.
Okay, but yeah, I don't know. I felt like we were gonna have a more philosophical conversation about it, but I mean,
no, you're good. You're good. Let's go.
So okay, can it give you memories of things that have yet to happen, or can it give you memories of things you can't physically do? The two examples I thought of were: could you somehow implant a memory so that like someone would remember that they died? But clearly they haven't died. My other thing is, can you give a memory to somebody of, like, let's say a biological male? Can you give them a memory that they gave birth to a human child, like a woman? Can you do these things? This is what I'm interested in with the recall machine. Like,
longer
what
than
limits
2 weeks
do we
is
have?
more expensive, so 9 months is probably going to be. You're probably going to be pricey, but I don't see why not. It seems like you can do pretty much anything, and like I know at least in the original, the guy's like, take a vacation from yourself because you suck.
Yes, yes.
And maybe the way you take a vacation from yourself is by being a pregnant lady for a while.
I like that phrase. That should definitely be on a little brochure at our recall office, where we're like, do you want to try being pregnant?
So
we offer it all.
I definitely don't see why not. Given that they can, so here's the thing: like with being able to insert experiences. Oh, okay. No, I guess I kind of talked myself out of it as I was trying to formulate the way I was going to say it. It's like you're inserting experiences, but I feel like there's kind of a component like this in Inception where it's like if it's too far from something that might happen, your brain's going to reject it. Yeah, your brain will reject it, and maybe that's the case. So maybe it's like I don't know. I don't know.
That's a fascinating take. I like that take that, if your brain can't handle it, it's of course going to lead to horrible things. But it's like, can you imagine hearing a story about a guy who paid someone to use some technology to give him memories of him birthing a child and it killed him? Like, that's crazy.
He died giving birth.
He died giving birth. Yes.
It happens all the
that would be insane. That is a fantastic scenario.
I was initially going to take the stance that I think if you can inject memories into somebody, that you can make them remember anything, regardless of whether or not it is even remotely possible.
Yeah.
And I think probably that, like, I don't think that our brain is going to have a way to be like, no, that's fake memories, like, get that shit out of here. Mm-hmm. I think that when you remember it, you might be like, this is weird, like, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But I think that it would still be in there. So I think that you would still be able to implant some memories like that.
Okay.
I guess I also had a question, like, when they're implanting the memories, does the person feel like they're experiencing it? Or is it just after the fact they get to, like, recall these things?
In terms of the movie, both movies, I would say, there is some level of, like, experience, like an experiential thing. I imagine in I think more so in the original, if I'm remembering correctly. I would imagine, though, that, from the way that the coworker at the police robot manufacturing plant that tells Colin Farrell about recall and tells him who to find. The way he talks about it, he seems like he didn't experience it. He just remembers these things, which I was interested by that idea. Like, what would it feel like to
just have a memory of a thing that you didn't ever experience? So I was also thinking about, like, from the standpoint of, like, the technical application or the technical, like, ability to make this happen, it would be a lot easier if you could just make them experience it, because then they would develop an actual memory of that.
Sure.
And I think in both movies, they say something along the lines of like, he's not ever going to want to come out.
Yeah, definitely.
Which definitely makes me think that it's an experience.
Yeah.
As well as a memory. But they market it like it's just a memory, which I find very strange.
Exactly.
I guess it would you just wake up and like you'd have access to parts of a movie in your head because your memory's not that good.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, definitely.
Like when and maybe I'm a special case in the not so good a memory direction, but like when I look back on like times that I visited my family or whatever thing I did that is memorable, I don't get like action shots. I get like moments with feelings attached to them.
Sure.
Essentially.
Sure.
And I don't get very many of those. Okay. And I kind of need a lot of priming to bring them up.
Yeah.
So if it's just a memory, I'm not getting shit out of it. I will never think about it.
Gotcha.
Like I would need them to then show me pictures of the events or something so that I can be like, oh yeah, that thing, and then maybe I'd be able to recall everything about it. But without the priming, I'm just not there. So yeah, I don't know. I think that there's more reasons I wouldn't partake in the product, but I just don't think it would work very well for me.
Sure, I got you.
Unless it was experiential.
I would go to Recall and have them implant the memory of me watching the movie Total Recall.
And then, but it actually being good? Is that?
No, I think it would just be. Then it turns out that everything I've just described is a movie, and it's the ultimate twist because the audience thought it was real life, but it was a movie. The whole movie is about me wondering if I'm actually watching Total Recall or if it's just a fantasy.
At the end, you're like, was that a dream?
Is that a dream?
Did this thing that didn't happen actually not happen or really not happen?
Yeah, exactly. I do want to mention some minor things at the end. So Arnold Schwarzenegger was in the original. I did find a quote from him. He was using this, from what I found, in context of like rehashes and remakes. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, the interviewer said something like, oh, they're planning on making, it might have been the other, Terminator movie, Terminator Dark Fate. It might have been that one, if I have my timeline right, where, it talked about how Arnold and Linda Hamilton from the original like Terminator and Terminator 2, they're in this version, and I think it was coming up, it's like, do you think they're ever gonna, reboot or like remake something? Remakes came up in that notion, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is quoted as saying, someone tried to do a remake of Total Recall. How stupid is that? Jesus. So now, let's try that with Arnold Schwarzenegger affectation put on. Someone tried to do a remake of Total Recall. How stupid is that? Jesus. I went a little into like
Let me be clear.
Ren or Stimpy or whichever one. Yeah. But yeah, apparently Arnold Schwarzenegger said it was how stupid is. Well, he just said how stupid is that? Knowing Arnold Schwarzenegger, he might have legitimately been asking. He might have been looking for an answer.
That was not rhetorical.
Is that stupid?
Give me an answer. I'm sure my Arnold Schwarzenegger is as bad as my every other accent.
Right on. And then I think also speaking of accents, I did want to mention, I have a singular sentence written down in my notes. It says, Obama's on the future money.
Oh, Jarvis actually narrates a news scene in this.
Really?
I think so.
Okay,
I didn't look it up, but it's like whenever he's talking about the like railway crash or whatever, the thing that Lori has to go. I'm pretty sure that that's Jarvis.
Interesting.
Like not the actor that voices Jarvis. It's actually Jarvis.
So you're not saying it's Paul Bettany. You're saying it is the actual Jarvis from the documentaries known as the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. I'm glad we're on the same page. Obama is on the future money, though. Are we on the same page with that?
Is he?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a scene where it shows like someone taking out money and Obama's on a bill.
Oh, I guess I didn't know.
You missed the best part of the movie then. Obama's on the future money.
Damn.
Obama's on the future money. Okay, come on.
Now, let me be clear. If you
want to see me on the future money,
if you use this money to buy a hamburger, Well, you're going to get to see Obama. I don't
I like that ending. I don't know. All right. Anything else you wanted to highlight about Future Money or Total Recall? Or do you have a really good, like, Peter Griffin voice you can do for us? I don't know. Who else can you do?
The answer to do I have a good any voice is no. I don't even have a good regular voice.
Let's do that. That's good podcasting. If we just do a solid 20 minutes of us badly impersonating certain people, right? That's good content, you know?
Get down. Get to the chopper.
That was a horrible Peter Griffin.
That's not even the kind of thing he would say.
What's like Peter Griffin, Homer Simpson, SpongeBob, any of those classic like cartoon characters. We could do a bunch of. That was perfect, Ben. It's like Dan Castellaneta's on the episode with us. But yeah, okay, let's do that. Let's do 20 minutes of voices. And we're back from 20 minutes of voices. Ben, any other things you want to highlight from
Rob,
Total Recall?
A lot of the stuff you said in that 20 minutes was very offensive. I think we might need to edit it out.
I'm gonna highlight it in Audacity, like highlight the chunk of the episode that needs to be edited out. But at the last
increase
moment,
the volume.
No, the last moment, because there's a button in Audacity where you can cut the exterior of your selection, so everything you don't have highlighted.
Oh, yeah. It's just going to be that.
No, but then exactly. I'm going to want to cut. I'm going to want to hit the button that's right next to it, which is just delete the highlighted section. But at the last minute, I'm going to slip and delete everything else, and also somehow stumble onto the repeat and make louder. And then play it in reverse at the end for, because we're not breaking tradition or anything.
And then you're going to look at the camera and be like, but was it a dream?
But was it a dream?
Did it actually not happen?
And I hope that it's going to be good, because in that 20 minutes, you did we found you could do a really good Colin Farrell impersonation. So that was good. I don't know. We didn't know why that happened, but yeah, it was great. Yeah. It was interestingly
enough. Are you going to put in the clip of Colin Farrell there?
Colin Farrell and Lois Griffin, you do really well.
Thank you. I'm glad that someone knows that now.
Peter. All right. So, Total Recall. What do you got? Anything final? Any final thoughts on your third favorite director?
I guess while watching this movie, until I understood what it was about, I enjoyed it.
Okay. So before the story really kicked in.
Yeah. So like we're seeing, he goes through this thing, and then it's like, oh, he's in a simulation, and we're watching a simulation now for some reason. And then he's like going, and there's all these action sequences, and I was like, oh, these action sequences are all right. And then he fights Lori in his house, and I'm like, I don't think you're allowed to hit women, even when they're shooting at you. And then he ends up in a car chase, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then we get to, I think it's like the 50-minute mark, like that car chase stops, and we're at Henry Reed's house.
Okay,
I think
Obama's house, sure.
Yeah, Obama's house, yeah. And then he talks to the piano, and I was just like, so this plot doesn't make any fucking sense then. Like at that moment, I was like,
definitely. I know exactly what you mean. That's actually a great way to put it, because that you described like my experience, except with like engagement, except I didn't start where I was like okay with it. I was like kind of disengaged from the beginning. Him talking to the fucking floating Ethan Hawke head on the piano, I was like fully checked out at that point. I was like, this is nonsense.
Well, from a sci-fi perspective, that's not too bad. Like a little recorded video. Like, I mean, we get that with Superman and talking to his parents, Kal-El, where it's like, or not, Jor-El, I think is his dad's name, where like Jor-El can actually answer some questions, but not everything.
Yeah. Like,
that's totally a thing in sci-fi.
Oh,
so like,
yeah,
I wasn't like upset with that, but it's just like when they're like, they changed your face because they insert reason, like fucking nothing, no reason. They didn't change his face for any goddamn reason. Like, why would they want to make it harder for him to get back to the Resistance?
And Colin Farrell's like, well, my face? They changed my face? Oh, like he's like so confused, and he's horrible.
It's like when you show a baby a mirror, and then
Yeah, that's a good point. When Ethan Hawke's he's like, "This is your original face," and Colin Farrell just starts sobbing uncontrollably, like wailing. And all the stupid hologram can say is, I am not programmed to respond to that.
I will not dignify that with a response.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can give it the sci-fi elements. Some of them are pretty neat, like the gun they had where it wraps lights around people and then you can just throw them around all willy-nilly. That was kind of cool. They did some neat sci-fi things. There were plenty of decent action scenes, and like you said, the moving cubes, which I spent longer than I should have trying to think of what to call it because it's not an elevator, but it's like an elevator.
It's a cube-evator.
No, it's an all-evator. I just figured it out.
It's a cube-evator, Ben.
Rob, it's an all-evator.
Nope, cube-evator's better.
All-evator.
You just keep saying words that aren't cube-evator.
So, they're on the elevator, cube-evading around.
Cube-evading's a good word. I like that,
So I was, that was kind of a neat idea. It wasn't the most engaging sci-fi action sequence ever or anything like that, but it was kind of decent. And then the movie just comes to a grinding halt. And they try to make me think that the plot makes sense. And they would have been better off to never tell me the plot.
Yeah.
I think.
Sure.
And that's coming from a story-oriented person. I would have been better off just continuing to see action scenes than for them to tell me oh, we changed his face so that he couldn't get back to them. But you don't think that the Resistance is going to think, why didn't they fucking kill you?
Yeah.
They had you sedated long enough to change your goddamn face. They should have killed you.
You're not thinking four-dimensionally, Ben. Okay?
You're telling me that you can't tie knots in a sheet of paper because it's in 4 dimensions?
I'm saying if you could do that, you would understand this movie.
So
I'm saying
anyway.
they're equivalent. Actually, in kind of a weird, not a weird way, in kind of in a maybe slightly different, coming from a different foundation, knowing that I really do enjoy the original. I'm with you that I would have probably liked this movie better, and I'm very certain of that if this didn't have the plot. If this was just fine, still a Total Recall remake to some extent, but it was just a basic action movie that threw out this convoluted plot, I would have liked it better. I would have still had many problems with it as a remake, but I wouldn't have been like, oh, at least it's just this soulless thing. It's more of it's more straightforward and probably just more, turn your brain off and just let it glaze over you and enjoy it. Instead of here, I'm turning my brain off and not enjoying it because they're cramming all this exposition into me.
I have to disagree. It's not soulless. It has a soul, and that soul's going to rot in hell.
Its soul exists, but it is small, shriveled, and damned for eternity.
I actually don't disagree, but I couldn't resist that opportunity.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Its soul's in limbo, in purgatory.
There you go. Yeah, until somebody decides whether or not it's actually a movie. I was so frustrated. It's the opening. It's also decent, and I'm like, oh great, this is gonna be a decent sci-fi action movie. I'm pretty excited about it. We're gonna get to explore some like I said, some back and forth of is he in the machine? Is he not in the machine? We don't get any of that.
Yeah,
none of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just come up with a plot that doesn't make any sense. Why would they want to make it harder for him to get back to the Resistance? Why would they erase his memory if the whole point is to get him to Matthias?
I will send you this recording so you can listen back to it and write down all the questions you have for Len Wiseman in your upcoming
interview.
Fan
club?
Yes, exactly. So because you should not miss any of these opportunities to talk to him about these
I should just make him listen to clips of this.
Sure. Why not?
Me screaming about it. I know screaming is normally your shtick for this. Sorry if I stole the spotlight.
No,
from you,
that's
but I
good.
I had a lot to rant about.
Now I'm very much enjoying the idea of you sitting down with Len Wiseman, who I do not know what Len Wiseman looks like, so I'm just imagining a random person Ben is sitting in a room with in an interview-like format, and Ben just going, we covered your movie, Total Recall 2012, on our podcast, and I would like to play a few clips for it, because I think they bring up some points about this movie that we would like to get your thoughts on. And then it's like you hit the play button on like a tape recorder or something, and it just cuts to like... you doing Homer like Marge, I'm Homer, just for like 3 minutes, and then it like cuts back. They're like, hey Peter, remember the time? And then it's just like, and then you end it and you go, and thoughts. And Len Wiseman would be like, when I put that into the movie, I thought.
And I guess that I'm also going to take a page out of your playbook that I normally kind of disagree with, but in this movie, I'm starting to understand maybe why you say this sometimes. There were a lot of ideas they could have explored that they didn't.
Yes, exactly.
And I don't... Normally, my defense for a movie that doesn't explore all those ideas is that the story's strong enough that those ideas are hinted at and you can think about them on your own, or you can not, and you can get a good story and enjoy yourself, or you can get a deep philosophical experience and stroke yourself mentally. But this movie doesn't have that strong story element.
Nope.
There's not like we didn't explore the philosophy so for the sake of making a good and palatable movie. They didn't explore the philosophy, period.
Yep, they didn't. But you know what they did have, Ben? A woman with 3 breasts.
With 3 breasts?
A woman with 3 breasts, which is one of the things they do take from the original. There is a woman with 3 breasts in the original. But in the original, she's a mutant on Mars, because the early colonizers of Mars, or the early humans that went to Mars in the original, got all fucked up because the technology wasn't good and a bunch of radiation messed them up and gave a woman a 3rd breast. Is it just like plastic surgery in this movie? Is that the implication, that just some woman had another breast put on her?
I guess so. I didn't really understand.
Yeah, it just kind of popped up, and I was like, oh, that's how they're doing this?
Speaking of the radiation bit, in the no zone, there actually is supposedly some amount of radiation, and the protective gear that they wear are face masks.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I don't know that much about radiation.
And they're like the COVID face masks that we wear now, Like, they're the blue thin
the
ones.
paper ones?
It's really, really, like, you can tell they spent that budget somewhere else.
So, like, there was a moment where I was just like, do they expect me to believe that this is protecting his entire body from radiation? And then I realized I was thinking about it too much.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I went back to whatever I was doing before that.
That's the key. Absolutely. Oh, man. Yeah. 3 breasts. I hear you.
It feels so weird to me because like I'm normally the one who's like I'm going to defend this movie because I think the story is decent enough and whatever, and it is so weird for me that this movie has like 0 redeeming qualities.
Yep, I'm with you, and it is interesting that you have that stance as well. I'm with you there as well, but it's the movie to do it. I think it is actually that movie, the perfect exemplar to finally show something like that to you. It's the textbook definition.
The textbook definition of no redeeming qualities.
Exactly. of movie as a product, for sure.
I should actually show this to my dad because he, for the longest time he said that I was the biggest failure on earth, and now he can see this movie.
I did not expect you to go there, man. That was something.
Whether that's true or not, I'll leave it up to you. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe the thing that didn't happen actually didn't happen, Rob.
Maybe this entire memory you have of your dad calling you a failure and a disappointment never actually happened, and it was implanted. It was inceptized. I do have to tell you though, the memory you have of you shitting your pants, you did shit your pants. That's real. I didn't implant that one. You just did it. It's just a fact. All right, Ben, are you ready for our questions?
Yeah, hopefully I haven't been too repetitive with the thing that didn't happen actually didn't happen.
No, you're fine. And if anybody critiques it and says you said it too many times, you'd be like, well, half the times he said it or the amount of times he'd need to not say it to get it down to a reasonable level, that was all a dream. So you said it the reasonable amount of times. This episode is critic-proof for that reason. We can just say it was a fantasy.
That's what makes it lazy writing.
I have to. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that whoever wrote this, not Len Wiseman, it was written by other people who I didn't recognize and didn't write their names down. But I'm sure that they were sitting up when they wrote this. You can't call that lazy.
I hope that they were actually like exploring the idea of the consequences of becoming somebody else through implanting memories. And not some bullshit. Oh, maybe it didn't happen. It's like, well, maybe that's only relevant if he wakes up.
Do you think they finished the screenplay and then the final page afterwards, it was all blank, but then they wrote, or it said the end, but then they wrote a question mark after it, and they were like, "We got it, we cracked it," you know? It's
oh god.
It also makes me think of there's a Simpsons joke where it like cuts to the inside, like the writer's room for Mad Magazine, that type of thing, and it's like all these writers and you know, I'm pretty sure the first thing we hear is like they're all sitting there in silence, like they're looking pensive, like they have their notebooks or whatever, and like one guy lifts his head and he goes, "I got it. What if it's everybody hates Raymond?" And then like someone else gets up and goes, "Well, the 2 nights without sleep was worth it. We got our headline," or something like that, you know?
All right, posse. That's our target.
Not mad. That's our nation's largest mental illness-themed humor magazine.
Why don't we call it Everybody Hates Raymond?
Well, we stayed up all night, but it was worth it.
We can't let LT blow up Mad. Tina Brown was just starting to turn it around.
I imagine them writing this movie as that. They're like, you know, the end, question mark. Well, we did it. We deserve ourselves a lunch break, you know?
We did it, boys.
We did it. Oh, well, I don't think it's any surprise that for Cinemodities and Late Night, I'm going a hard no to both of these. I think the soulless remake, the soulless action movie, the Len Wiseman of it all, it's not odd. It's an exemplar, maybe one of the only ones we've had on this podcast, but there's a great handful of them we could dive into more, which we don't want to, of this just churning out movies as product of these old rehashed IPs. So no to Cinemodities and no to Late Night. I never want to see this again. I mean, I don't want to show this to anybody. I don't want to watch it with anybody. I mean, the original is definitely a late night movie for me, even if it is going to get convoluted story-wise and someone might not be able to follow it. It's a Paul Verhoeven movie. He's a great director. There's great special effects. This one has, as you said, Ben, no redeeming qualities. And it also has a no to the answer for both of my questions. What do you got for Cinemodities and Late Night?
No surprises. No across the board. Across the 2 columns that make up the board.
They're big columns, okay?
That's right. Yeah, I wrote no a bunch of times in each one. No across the board. Part of me is tempted to rewatch this movie, but that's just because my brain hasn't accepted that there's something that makes this little sense in the world. And there's like part of me is like, I have to watch it again just to see if I just didn't understand something.
I think that if you do rewatch it, you should rewatch the other version, the theatrical cut, so that your brain, comparing that version to the version you originally watched, the memories of you watching this unrated cut will clash, and you'll become a vegetable and have to get lobotomized. What do you think? I think that would be a fun afternoon.
I'm glad that's what you want from me, I guess.
I only want the best for you, Ben, and I know that you will have a grand old time.
I guess I also want to say this movie came out 12 years after Memento, and they didn't learn anything from Memento. Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, Memento...
Not fully. I don't think fully. I understand what you're saying.
So Memento has this, like, back and forth, and they're, like, trying to figure out what's going on, and we're getting these storylines from 2 directions, and this movie's just like, maybe it's a dream.
Okay, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
It's like, why don't we get something that would make it like compelling one direction or the other, and then at the end you can fight about it with your friends?
Sure.
Nothing.
Sure.
And instead, it's like, does it matter?
Okay, yeah. I'm glad we're in agreement. No across the board. This is a bad one. This is a rough one. It's kind of what I expected, I should say. I guess I like I said earlier, I didn't expect to dislike it this much. But there's a reason I have not watch this. Like I've never seen the RoboCop remake. I had never seen this because I've never seen a lot of these. I'd never seen Ghost in the Shell, of course, like we talked about, because I kind of see them all as these just churned out products, and this one was very much, unfortunately, fit that category. I think I might have to put Ghost in the... Oh God, I don't think I like any of them really. That's interesting. I'm like, Ben, we want to do the remake series? There's only 4 movies we can do. We finally have enough, you know? And it turns out, like, it's just been like, what the fuck? Okay, well, then that brings us to the restaurant. Let's start with it because, you know, you said I was creeping into snacks territory earlier. It basically is just the heading of this restaurant item, not really a menu item. It's just like the statement is, how do we use the recall machine in the restaurant? That's what I was getting at. Like, can we give it like weird memories to people?
Oh yeah,
who...
we're gonna generate memories of people watching their family get murdered. Like, and
so what if? How do we? So it seems like the recall machine can only. It's an additive procedure. We can put memories in. We can't. Can we delete I guess we can. Or can we
I don't know.
delete?
They
Or can we
remove his entire memory and implant a whole new one.
Well,
so
do you think they deleted and then uploaded, or just overwrote? Do you which do you think they have the ability to do?
They backed up first. Apparently
they did. That's right. They did say that. Okay.
Well, and maybe we just solved the riddle about why it's actually called Total Recall, because they just recalled the name of the thing. They implanted a whole personality.
Sure. They recall. Okay. What do you think about, we have some version of the machine where, let's say there's a table, and maybe it's like a group of 4 people, and they come in, they eat at the restaurant, they get their check, they pay it. Boom! Hit them with the recall machine. They don't remember that they paid it. We put them in an infinite loop of paying until they can't pay for it anymore. And then,
so I mean, yeah.
Then on the last iteration, because they can't pay for it, we make them do work in the restaurant to make up for it. And then they're trapped there forever.
They were going to be trapped there forever. Anyway,
yeah, but then they're trapped there forever as part of the workforce.
There you go. That sounds like more steps.
That sounds like a with fun steps. Okay. These steps are going to be entertaining to somebody.
If we're allowed to say that, but all
that's
right.
fair. It didn't sound right when it came out of my mouth. I have to admit. How else do we want to use the recall machine in the restaurant? There's got to be some great notions we can use.
I think I'm really leaning into, like, you just get to experience something horrible.
Sure.
And that's probably not what we tell you before you go in. We probably tell you you get to decide, like, just think real hard about what you want to experience, and that's what you're going to experience.
Ooh,
but
make them sign a waiver that says, like, you know, any effects of this won't, we have no liability, that type of thing. Liability.
And we should also afterward have a debriefing where we say that the thing you experience actually is a reflection of your personality.
Yeah, there should be afterwards, like a sit down with our on-site psychiatrist or therapist, and they just lean in to be like, you are an immensely fucked up person, you know? It's like,
this is all stuff that was already in your brain. We just brought it to the front.
Exactly. And then the therapist can funnel them into some other part of the restaurant that we want them to keep spending their money on, you know?
I like the idea of we're going to convince people that they're batshit insane.
You are a fucking horrible person for what you thought of in that recall machine experience. And the only way to get better is to buy 50 orders of chicken wings in the Cinemodities
Do we
restaurant.
sell broom chocolates? Because I think
we have to. I'm sure we put that on there.
So I think that's you have to buy broom chocolates. You have to buy enough broom chocolates to bring back somebody's little girl.
She was beheaded. Not by the broom chocolate. By jihadists. That's great. Those infomercials are fucking best. Way better than Total Recall. So I think this is something we can keep open in the restaurant. We can just have the recall machine, and as we think of ways to use it, we'll just, keep tossing it in there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other than that, for the restaurant, I didn't really have anything that, I was super gung-ho about. I mean, like, the fall is the other thing I was thinking of, like just having something like that. But I mean, where are we going to go? Like, where do we want to go?
So the fall is also what I thought of, and I had this very amusing to me, because I'm a sick bastard apparently, idea of we take you up to this thing, and we're like, you get in, it's going to take you to our other Cinemodities brother restaurant on the other side of the country.
Okay,
sister restaurant is that? I don't know. Anyway. Then we set you in it, and like you get ready to go, and then we drop you, and you're gonna hit the ground, like it's not, there's no hole.
Okay, I like that. Like it's under construction. It's like getting on a train when the tracks aren't fully laid down or something yet, you know?
Yeah. So it's like you fall for a long time, and then eventually you just hit something, and then it's like, oh.
Right. And you just whack. Okay, right on.
So that would be good. We can implant fake memories of people into people so that they have experienced that fall, and see if we can give people nightmares and shit.
We can definitely give people nightmares. That's fun.
Outside of that, I mean, those neck collars where it can like turn your face into something else, like that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, okay, that's something we could probably use. Yeah, I mean, just let's say that we want someone doesn't show up to work and they need to get covered. Just have the other person look like you in certain instances to be like, oh yeah, they were here, I saw them. That type of thing. It doesn't seem like the neck collar thing is. It seems to conveniently fail. Convenient is the word of this. A lot of the stuff in this movie, the neck collar just seems to fail when it's just like
when it needs to.
For the plot to keep going.
Well, and then one of the times it fails, like he just like keeps repeating himself. Like, why the fuck? Why? Are we supposed to believe that the neck collar takes whatever it is that he's trying to say and then like modulates it and makes it become someone else's voice and then plays it like it's some kind of recording? And in this case, it got stuck and played the recording multiple times.
It makes no sense in this version because everything it's so like just it's making your head look this way, and it should like modulate your voice. It's very sci-fi future tech. A similar scene exists in the original, but that is. When it's Arnold, of course, in costume. He's in costume. Do you know the scene that we're talking about in the remake where our main character Quaid is like looking like that black guy with the like coat on type of thing, but in the
I've not seen that scene yet.
No. So you haven't seen it in the original, but in the one in the remake, it's the face that freaks out is the one that he's the black guy.
Oh, is it? Because he was like a Chinese man, and then like some other white dude.
His face like switches around, but the one that he is at the start of the scene is the black guy.
I thought it was an Asian dude.
How long are you here?
2 weeks.
Either way, in the foreground of that scene, not that character. In the foreground of the scene in the remake, there's a woman, and she's dressed up like the costume Arnold wears in the original. And in the original, it is shown that it's not this like super duper like hologram around your head thing. It's like a helmet type of thing that Arnold is wearing, and it is made very clear that it's not modulating Arnold's voice. It's just like pre-coded to have a certain set of statements. It has a lot of statements, but the machine, like the helmet, fucks up in the original, and it just keeps saying the phrase 2 weeks, and then people catch on that it's Arnold, and some great practical effects and action ensues. So that makes more sense in the original, where it's like, the technology failed him. Where here, it's like the technology failed him, but like you said, with the repetition of the guy's voice, it failed him in a way that doesn't make sense. Like, the failing should just be it switches through a bunch of faces and the guard goes, oh, you have a fake face on, you're not who you say you are. But there's no reason for this voice to be repeating itself.
No, they don't. They definitely don't give us any. I mean, it could. I suppose it could be the case that it has the limited dialogue options. But I don't know why I would believe that, given the technology.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then, because the next time we see it is when Kate Beckinsale has it at the very end, when she comes back to add more action to the fucking 2 hour plus movie already.
They're like, you pretend to be Melina and try to kill Doug Quaid.
Yeah, and I mean, it didn't seem like that. I didn't really think about it in the moment, but that didn't seem like she had, fixed dialogue options.
No, it didn't.
Fuck this movie. Fuck it, Ben. I hate it. I gave it 1 star. I want to forget it wholesale. Anything else for the restaurant? Because I think I'm all tapped out. I'm all recalled.
I mean, Bryan Cranston's in this, so meth.
Oh, sure, okay, that's fine. Yeah, we didn't have cigarettes in this movie, so meth. That's good. And I guess also let's just make a steadfast rule right now. Recalls just don't affect the Cinemodities restaurant, like the act of recalling products or anything like that. We're just immune to. You know how like.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I said immune, and I said immune, but then almost too quickly went into my example that I was going to use. I almost too quickly said, which I now really think I should just go for. I was going to say we should be immune to recalls Like Arizona is immune to daylight savings time. We choose not to acknowledge it, you know.
No, that's a good example.
But now I want to say to somebody, be like, you know, like Arizona, they're immune to daylight savings time. The Earth is just kind of flat there, so the sun doesn't really change or anything, you know, or some shit like that. We get someone on Reddit to believe that, right?
Oh god, that just reminds me. I saw something earlier today that's like the Flat Earther Society. We have members all around the globe.
That's good. All right. Well, if that's it for Total Recall, Jesus Christ, Recall.
Yeah, I will say this was a funner conversation than it could have been, given how bad this movie was.
It was more fun than the movie, for sure.
Oh yeah. Thanks for taking part.
Yes. I'm glad we got through it. So, if you like what you heard, if you like some goofiness, if you like some actually hearing us talk about maybe possibly better movies, you can head over to the Patreon, patreon.com/cinemodities, where Ben and I talk a whole lot of nonsense. Fan requests, movies we choose, Adventure Time, all that stuff. Check it out. Anything you want to say about the Patreon, Ben?
Yeah, come check. I mean, same shit Rob said. Come check it out. It's good stuff. You listened to this part. If you are here, then you clearly like listening to us talk.
I have to tell you, Ben,
over there.
The whole time we've been doing the Patreon, it's been a dream. None of those episodes exist.
Oh no!
Well, me, my face, my music, the key. I need the key. Do I need the key?
It was all a dream.
Find the key. You gotta get the key. That's the stupidest shit. If you have any thoughts on Total Recall, if you want to explain the scientific accuracies of this movie that Ben and I have missed, please email us at cinemodities@gmail.com. We would love to have a crayon-written email. I don't think that was in the recording, so no one will get that. But a crayon-written email will be preferred to complain about our thoughts on this movie.
Yes, crayon-written. I like it.
And then, well, Ben, now we only have one remake left. And it's going to be a doozy. It's another one I haven't seen. It's the most recent out of all of these. We are going to be covering the remake of Matilda. It's a Netflix release. So I think it got theatrical, but I'm pretty sure it's a Netflix movie. And Ben, I don't know if you're aware of this. Well, one, I should prime you by saying, which of course we'll talk about in the episode, in the discussion, I really do love the original Matilda. It's my favorite Danny DeVito movie. He directed it. It's a fantastic movie overall. It's a great Roald Dahl adaptation. I absolutely love it. In the episode we did it on it, I definitely gush over it. The remake is a musical. Were you aware of that?
Are you being serious?
I am being serious. We are going to be talking some music, and it's going to be. Last time we did music was probably Frozen. When the Unexpected Love, because I think we did our music series before that. Frozen.
Does this qualify as a reimagining, even if it's exactly the same story but in musical form?
Ooh, I guess we will have to debate that, and we'll see how much time we have, depending on how much we hate that movie. Then I guess, Ben, if there's nothing else, please throw it out if you got it. But I did not have any great thoughts on how to end this episode or what music we'd play in reverse, and I went with the tried and true, I couldn't care less answer, the ending credits music in reverse.
I thought you were going to say that you were going to get an audio file of a child crying.
Just sobs in reverse. See, that's the problem. You can't play sobs in reverse because then it's like you're undoing the sadness. This would have to be like laughter in reverse because you're undoing the happiness, you know?
That's right.
Or just straight up crying. Or we do the David Lynch thing where we get somebody to cry, we record it, and then we get the same person to use that recording to learn how to cry backwards.
Right.
And then we record them crying backwards and then reverse it again.
To get them crying forward.
And then do that whole thing one more time to get it backwards again. And that's what we play at the end of our episode.
Awesome.
And we will definitely be able to do that in a reasonable amount of time.
What, 5-10 minutes tops?
And I think we can definitely also get Obama to do that for us, to be the person who does the voice work.
He's hard up for like acting gigs and stuff right now. So.
Yeah, kind of weird that after his gigantic role as, like in the American, reality TV show that we live in. He didn't move on to movies and stuff like that. Didn't move on to anything bigger. I mean, I know he's on things and stuff, but it's like, when are we going to get I don't know, who would Obama play in the MCU? Why didn't they give Kang the Conqueror to him instead of Jonathan Majors?
Oh, boy.
Could you imagine if they went into the quantum realm in the new Ant-Man and Obama was there? Talk about revitalizing Marvel and the MCU and all the fatigue, the superhero fatigue. Obama would revitalize the Marvel Cinematic any universe, any cinematic franchise. Here we go. The Cinemodities only answer. Mechanic 3, a two-hander with Jason Statham and Obama. What do you think?
A two-hander? What is that?
Like a two-hander, like there's two leads to the movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
I'm not familiar.
Like Obama's not supporting, Statham's not supporting. They are both equally. It's like the other guys with Farrell and Wahlberg. Like that's a two-hander. Like Statham.
I'm not familiar with the term, but I understand it.
Look at this. You could picture it now. Picture it right now, Ben and everybody else. Just think about this. Trailer starts in a movie theater, like black screen. I don't know, maybe some quick action edits, whatever, because it's going to be an action heist movie. Jason Statham's going to be a hitman. It's the mechanic, of course. And then it's like words start flying towards the screen, and it's like, the action duo you've always wanted. Statham, bullet shot sound effect. Obama, drone strike sound effect. Mechanic 3. I don't know, State of the Union or something like that,
Okay, so with the drone strike, it makes sense that Obama would be the villain in a mechanic movie. I'm not sure how we're going to make him the main character.
Yeah, they'd have to be a team. The first act would be them having to team up. Maybe they don't like each other at first. Maybe
Jason Statham would be like, I need to kill someone that's really far away.
Maybe Arthur Bishop
would be like, I got you.
Maybe Arthur Bishop is a staunch Republican, and he has to get past his political ideological differences with Obama in the first act.
Is Obama playing himself?
Absolutely.
Oh, all right.
Absolutely. Because you can't. I mean, he's just typecast now. You can't get Obama to not play Obama.
Let me be clear.
I am Obama.
I can hit him with the missile all the way over there. And I'm going to be here. I'm going to stay here. He will be there, and he will get hit by a missile.
And I will say, bang, you're dead. Everybody check it out. Cinemodities movie slate, Cinemodities Studios, whatever the fuck we're calling it. Whenever we finally produce our car sex porn video, we will get on to Mechanic 3. We can think of something better than State of the Union.
State of the Union is pretty good.
State of the Union is good, but like Secret Service, or it has to be something political, like because isn't there XXX State of the Union? I feel like we can't double dip with State of the Union.
Fair enough.
We'll think of something, but there's a great, dare I say, great subtitle somewhere out there, Ben, for that movie. I just love that. I got the trailer in my head. I can pick, like I said, like Statham, Obama. Summer 2024,
I like the idea of being like Statham, Obama, and then later it's like Arthur Bishop, Obama. That's great.
I think there's something great there, and even maybe we just do we go the route of we just make the trailer first. Because the trailer doesn't have to be that long. It doesn't have to be like a full trailer. It could be a teaser trailer. And then we just shop it around and see how much money we can get. I would imagine that we could... Okay, we might have to lie a little bit. I mean, we might have to tell a little white lie to the studio executives or whoever, the financiers, that Obama has agreed to be in this movie. A little white lie. We can iron that out later,
Small.
right? Yeah. A tiny little lie. I mean, Obama's on Twitter. We just have to tweet him. We'll probably be good. I say we get everything else done before that. What do you think?
That makes sense.
I think that's proper planning. I think that's what that's defined as, right?
No, but this is an example of it.
No. So tune in, everybody. Mechanic 3.
Were you hoping the subtitle just came to
I was
mind?
hoping it'll come to me if you say it.
Occasionally, but
it's that it's there.
Mechanic 3, the elevator.
No. The Mechanic 3 cube evading.
The fall evader.
The fall evader. Okay, babe, that's enough. Email us. What do you got? Send us some. What are your thoughts on the subtitle for Mechanic 3? Oh my God! Now I think it should be just like Hobbs and Shaw. It should be Bishop and Obama or something like that. Bishop and Barack. Bishop and Barack rolls off the tongue.
That's pretty. Yeah, it does.
Mechanic 3, Bishop and Barack. State of the Union.
How many colons are there? Like, how many subtitles can we fit in?
The separation between every subtitle is a different punctuation.
A different delineate.
Colon, semicolon, hyphen, M dash.
Are you saying that we have as many subtitles as we have delineators?
Yes, definitely. Make it the longest movie title in existence.
We've got some work out of us.
I mean, we're not cutting any corners here. We can't let the financiers see any cracks. We have to be a unified front. We have to show them we mean business. We have to tell them Obama's on board. We can record ourselves doing an Obama impression of be like, this is Obama, this is a voicemail he left us, and it's him accepting the movie role. It'll be great. That cannot be considered fraud at all.
Yeah.
I think this is a good plan.
Legally, you're right.
I think this is a good plan, and I think that everybody just tune in next week because in 1 week we will have this movie made, and we will have watched it, and we'll be discussing it. So tune in next week for that. Matilda will do 2 weeks from then. Okay, what do you think about that?
Perfect.